You can't get in life what you want if all you talk about and think about is what you don't want. How many of you can relate to the thought of, man, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I hope this doesn't happen. Why does this person do this thing to me? Man, I'm tired this morning. Why is it so hard to hit this goal? Those are all things that you're speaking that are things you don't want in your life, but you're not being clear talking about what you do want. All those thoughts that are popping up in your mind about what you don't want are a reflection of who you think you are. But each one of us have an opportunity to rewire that tendency. We can rewire that tendency with the thoughts that we put into our mind and the influence that we have. What is going on, you beautiful people? In this episode, guys, we're going to talk about how to finally make habits stick. How do you finally make those habits stick? And I'm going to give you an approach that's probably anti what you've heard from other people. Or if you've read the book Atomic Habits, amazing, amazing book. It's probably like the pinnacle book on habits. I'm going to tell you something that I think Atomic Habits has missing, and where I've learned from it, where I've struggled, where I've done well, and hopefully you can learn from that as well to make your habits stick in this new year. So the time I'm recording this right now is the new year. Now, if you're listening to this during any other part of the year, this is just as darn relevant, so hang on. But I'm recording this January 5th, and one of the things I do to finish the year every year, and you heard it on the podcast recently, the Epic Annual Planning Call, is I dive in and plan the year. But one of the things that I've started to do this last couple of years, I didn't really do as much previous because I didn't have the clarity that I have now on how important identity is. One of the things I do is I really, really look at not just the habits, but I look at the identity behind the habits, or the who before the do. The who before the do. And I'm going to pull from my life truths. I haven't done that for a good little bit, so I'm going to pull from my life truths as I add probably 5 to 10 new life truths to my list every single month. And this life truth is from the book, The Power to Change by Craig Groeschel. And guys, one of the things I want to encourage you to do in this new year, if you're listening to this as this comes out or any other time during the year, is if you want to grow as a person, as an entrepreneur, if you're having pain in your business and hitting those pain lines, then you need to grow. And one of the ways that I've found the most valuable and most predictable to be able to grow as a person, as a marketer, as a husband, as a father, as a man in faith, is to read, to read every day. I read 10 pages a day. So my life truths come from reading. Very rarely do they just pop in my mind and they materialize out of nothing. Almost every time they come from reading and learning from others who have distilled these things down into amazing, amazing actions. So let me read this from Craig Groeschel on who before you do. Okay, who before you do, before do. To change what you do, first you need to change the way you think of you. Before you can change what you do, so if there's certain things you don't like that you're doing in your life, okay, there's habits that you're not adopting and not sticking. There's things that you're doing that have become habits that aren't healthy. You know, there are vices that you're stepping into and you're doing every day because you're just filling time with it. You're not thinking about it, or you're looking for an energy rush and you do this thing that gives you a short-term energy rush, but then gives you guilt afterwards. If you're doing those things, it's because of the way that you think of yourself. Like, what do you think of yourself? Do you think you deserve success or deserve whatever it is that you want, but your actions aren't showing that you really are going to have? You know, who before you do, what do you think of yourself? And really analyze that. Do you think that you're a disciplined person? If you think that you're a disciplined person, you probably will be. If you think you're an undisciplined person, that's what you tell people. Man, I just have the hardest time having habits stick. That's what you think of yourself. Okay, that is the what you think of yourself. That is the who. When we think those thoughts become reality. I remember I was given a mug by one of our employees years and years and years ago. And that mug, it says habits become, It says thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. I'm sitting here driving after I dropped up my kids to school, and I'm heading to the office, and I'm looking around me right now. I'm seeing cars. I see a Range Rover. What's up, Coach Policy in front of me, man? I see a hotel over here. I see a gas station. I see lamp posts. I see lights. I see all kinds of things. I see signs. And every single thing that I'm looking around and seeing, every single thing that you're looking around and seeing, the car you're driving in, the bike you're riding on, the toilet you're sitting on, the, whatever it is, the shoes you're wearing, every single thing had to become a thought in someone's mind first. That person had to believe that they could turn that thought into reality. They had a belief about themselves. They had a belief about the world around them. They had a belief that this thought, number one, could be possible. Number two, that they could do it. And number three, that they can make it happen. So as you're thinking about your own goals and habits, first of all, there has to be a thought that thing can be reality. What a lot of us do, I talk with my youngest daughter quite often. She's 9, and one thing that she's really, really good at, which is a really, really bad habit, is she talks about the things that she doesn't want. Let me kind of tell you explain what that means and see if that relates to you. See if any of your kids or people that you're around think like this. So I'll ask her, hey, what do you want for breakfast this morning on a weekend or something? And then she won't give an answer. And then I'll say, well, how about pancakes? No, I don't want pancakes. Okay. Well, how about eggs this morning? Oh, I don't really want eggs. I had eggs yesterday. Okay, Sydney, I asked you what you did want, and you didn't give me an answer, so I'm giving you some suggestions. What would you like? And she goes, well, I don't really want oatmeal. Okay, so what you're doing is you're telling me all these things you don't want. All she can think about is what she doesn't want. So what do you think she's going to get? She's going to get more of what she doesn't want because that's what she's thinking. She's not thinking of possibilities of what could be and speaking that into reality. And so that's something I'll say, Sydney, you got to tell me what you do want, not what you don't want. You can't get in life what you want if all you talk about and think about is what you don't want. How many of you can relate to that? How many of you can relate to the thought of, man, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I hope this doesn't happen. Why does this person do this thing to me? Man, I'm tired this morning. Why is it so hard to hit this goal? Man, my marketing isn't working for me. Man, why didn't that person give me a reply as quick as they should have? Man, I don't want to be poor anymore. Man, I don't want to be out of shape anymore. Those are all things that you're speaking that are things you don't want in your life, but you're not being clear talking about what you do want. Now, what does this have to do with today's episode? What does this have to do with who before you do? Because all those thoughts that are popping up in your mind about what you don't want are a reflection of who you think you are. They're a reflection of you thinking for some reason that you're either not worthy of something, you thinking for some reason that you can't, you bring a certain idea to the table. There's something in there about who you are. You're a person of limited possibilities. You're a person of lack, a person of the opposite of abundance. Now, a person who's an abundant mindset, I'll give you the other example of this, my son Colton. Colton, he's always talking about his dreams. He wants to own a ranch. He wants to own a big vet chain. He said one day on a drive home, he goes, Dad, how do you become a billionaire? I'm like, well, I'm not one, but I can tell you how I would do it if I imagined doing that. And we walked through it, and about 15-minute conversation, we went from him thinking really, really small to thinking of a business idea as an 11-year-old that could potentially bring in $1 billion, help him reach his dreams of having a big ranch, a bunch of sheep, and being a vet. And he's always looking for properties for his animals, for his sheep. He's looking to buy ranches, and I'll find him pulling up the family iPad, and he's like, Dad, hey, can we look at this one? And it's a ranch down the road, and we have a chance to do the math on it, and he gets to analyze it as an 11-year-old. And he's sitting there, we're talking during bedtime. And that's one of the most precious times, I think, to have conversations with your kids, is pray with them and talk before bedtime. But I can see something's on his mind, but it was like a good thing. And I go, dude, what are you thinking about? And he goes, man, I just can't get my ranch out of my mind. I go, your ranch? What do you mean? He goes, yeah, I drew out the entire ranch on the iPad. And we go look at it the next day, and he literally drew his entire ranch, where the houses would be, where my youngest daughter's house would be, because Sydney wants to do the ranch with them. So she'd have a house on the ranch. how many acres it would be, what it looks like. There's a river that runs through it, what the different pastures would be. He drew it all out on the iPad at 11 years old. What does this, what does this matter to this episode? Well, when you look at those two ways of approaching thought, and these things can change. It's not hardwired into you. I think by nature, your tendency is hardwired, because as you can see, both of those kids grew up in the same darn household, right? But the tendency, I think, is hardwired. But each one of us have an opportunity to rewire that tendency. We can rewire that tendency with the thoughts that we put into our mind and the influence that we have. Listening to podcasts like this is part of that rewiring, right? And so with Colton, his who is, man, I'm a person who can accomplish wild possibilities. I'm a person who can create my future from my thoughts. I'm a person who looks at things as a glass half full, not half empty, and I'm going to go solve the problem. My youngest daughter looks at things a little bit differently. Well, although she's very competitive, she's a state champion gymnast, and I love that about her. She's competitive as heck. She has this mindset about her that immediately looks for the lack first. It immediately looks for the detraction first. And she's got to work really, really hard to rewire. Her who is that there must be something wrong. Colton's who is that there must be something right with it. Okay. So let me kind of read something else from the life truth here. So changing your habits. Okay. If you try to change your behavior without changing your identity, it piles up, okay? It's like a piling up of weeds without getting to the root, or pulling up the weeds without getting to the root. Okay, so imagine you're out there in the garden, you've got all these weeds out there, and you're just yanking, but you're doing what a lot of kids will do at the start. When a kid starts to pull a weed, they're just yanking the thing on the top and they're leaving the root, but you have to then teach them, no, you've got to grab the thing a little deeper, give it a little twist, and pull up the entire root. Once the root's out, then the weed is gone. If you only take the top of the weed off, it looks good for a little while, but then it comes back. And that's what happens with our bad habits, is we try to cover it over with a new habit that we learned from Atomic Habits, and we put in our habit trigger, and we did all those things that we should do. And we wonder why in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks that habit goes away. It's because we were just pulling the top of the weed off. We weren't getting down to the root, and the root is the who, the top of the weed is the do. You're doing the thing, but you're not really getting to the root of why that thing is happening in your life, or why the new habit is not adopting in your life. Okay, behavior modification does not equip you with the power to change. Who before you do. Okay, who you listen to shapes your who. People around us and your spiritual enemy will repeatedly lie to us about who we are. And this is something that I've got to look at quite often too. The people that are around me, I may love them to death. I may like to hang out with them in a social setting every now and then, or whatever it is. But the people around me, we have to really look at, are they bringing me down out of possibility, out of the future, out of what can be? Are they bringing me down into the person that they knew in the past, not the person I want to become? Are they bringing me backwards into the way I used to show up, and they keep reminding me of the negative ways I used to show up, and then it becomes hard for me to step into that new person, right? Guys, the people around us are going to shape our who in a big way. If you have people around you who are consistently speaking into you and consistently saying, man, that's possible, let's figure out how to do it. They're consistently forgiving you for the ways you showed up in the past that maybe you weren't healthy, but they go, man, it really looks like he's wanting to change, or really looks like she's wanting to change. I'm going to be an encourager for that person. I'm going to be an encourager for him or her. If you're around people like that, keep them around you at all costs, because that person is going to help your who grow. Most people, their who stays the same. Once they hit adulthood and they get into that normal job and they get into those routines, their who is going to be exactly the same for the rest of their life. And so what happens when you're growing? What happens when your who is a who that is moving somewhere? Your who is a who that recognizes your previous or current who is not the person that's going to be getting you where you want to go. It's not the person that you know you're capable of being. What happens when those people around you, they don't want to change, but you do? Well, they're going to see that change. They're going to see you moving. They're going to see you making adjustments. And that's not comfortable for people, y'all. That's not comfortable for people. It's not comfortable for most people to see someone else changing around them, someone that they know really well. So what do? Naturally, a lot of people inadvertently, they don't mean it. I think they mean well. They start to make comments that bring you back. They start to make comments that bring you into the past. They start to make comments that make you seem like, that you are the person that you used to be still. And you're like, no, I've been working my ass off to become this new person. You don't recognize that? And I'm going through that right now with a person that I love that, man, I feel like I've worked my butt off to really change some of those ways I used to show up. And I feel like I have changed many of them, not all of them, but I'm getting no acknowledgement from that. I feel, all right, that's the way that I feel. Now that may not be true, but that's the way that I feel. And that's the way I'm interpreting it. That I'm like, man, it just feels like this person's wanting to dwell on that thing in the past and not really recognizing that I'm working my butt off on this and I'm not perfect, but you know what? I could really use some encouragement right now from you on this. And you know what? I want to be able to speak into you because I feel that you've got a greater future in front of you, but you're stuck in the past. And oftentimes as we're growing and as we're reaching new levels, unfortunately, people that are friends of ours have to move out of our friend circle. That kind of sounds harsh. But someone who is your high school buddy and was perfect for high school and perfect for that stage of your life may not be a person you want to be around very much right now. Maybe they're stuck in the past. A person who's an amazing college friend. And I've got lots of these, amazing college friends where great person, love to hang out with them, but they're not a person I could really hang out with on the daily basis and meet with on the weekly basis to talk about the future because they keep me in the past. Because they're not growing. They're in a spot that they're comfortable. They're in pain because they're not growing. They want to grow, but they've come to the realization themselves that they feel that it's not in their cards. And so they've tucked into their career that they're going to be in for the next 10 to 20 years, and they're not insanely happy about it. But they have to be happy about it, right? On the outside, because that's who they are. That's what they're doing. They're not willing to change. So I want you to ask yourself right now, who are the people around you that are going to help you become the person you want to be? Who are the influences around you that you need to put around you in this year ahead to help you be that? If you want to be an abundant thinker, you need to be talking with abundant thinkers every single day. Okay. I've had to with some of my people that I'm close with that are kind of more on the pessimistic side. I love them to death, right? But they're more pessimistic. I'll give an example because my wife doesn't listen to the podcast. I was sitting down with my wife last night, and by nature, because this is how her mom and dad are. Her mom and dad are highly, highly, highly pessimistic about things, and I love them to death, but they're highly pessimistic about things. As is my mom, and my dad is highly optimistic about things. And I think that's where I got that. But oftentimes, not all the times, but oftentimes, my wife will kind of slip into that pessimistic side of things, and I'll hear too many consistent comments that seem to me to be negative about a situation that there's all kinds of positive interpretations that could be found. There could be this negative, dark energy brought to a conversation with just a comment or a word. And for me, immediately, like it brings the energy down. It's like, oh man, yeah, but do we have to think about it that way? Do we have to think about it that way? And so as I'm working on things and getting better at things myself, and I'm by far nowhere near perfect. I've got so many things I need to keep getting better at, especially as a leader. One of the things that I think naturally I see as a strength, and I hear from a lot of people sometimes as a weakness. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to step into this as a strength because if you see my positivity and my seeing possibilities more often than not as a weakness, that's because you're sitting in negativity and you're sitting in lack of abundance, and you don't see that positivity. You don't see that possibility, and that's why you're in the position you're in. But I do see the possibility. I do see the positivity. And that's why I'm in the position I'm in. That's why I've been able to achieve what I have, because there is possibility around you. If I tell you, do not look at a red car, or, to not look at any of the cars that are red, what are you going to see? You're going to immediately see red cars. Okay. If I say don't think about a green elephant, you're going to think about a green elephant, right? Because if you see possibility, if I speak possibility into you, you're going to see more possibility. If you speak negativity or lack of abundance into me, that's all I'm going to see is all the reasons why something couldn't happen, or all the reasons why there's negativity or lack of possibility. All right, guys. So it runs both ways. You can be the amazing influence for other people to help them to step into their who, the who that is going to help them become the person that they want to be, and also adopt the habits and achieve the things they want to achieve. But everyone really want to make sure that you're looking at the people around you and recognizing, are they the who's that you need to be around? That's going to help you define that person, have confidence in the person that you are, and step into that person. If you're working with a bunch of dark energy people, your team members are dark energy and they're negative and they're bringing you down, they're pessimistic about everything, you probably need to surround yourself with at least a couple really highly optimistic people and work with them all the time. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't have pessimistic people on your team. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to counterbalance that and make sure that you're not spending the majority of your time with people who are bringing that into it and bringing you backwards versus helping you go forwards. Okay, so I'm going to recap this really quick, guys. If you're wanting to change your habits in this new year or anytime during the year, and you really, really have these things you want to tackle, but you haven't been able to make those habits stick, the book Atomic Habits is missing something big. It's who before you do. You need to make sure that before you change what you do, you need to change the way that you think of you. Okay, changing your habits. If you truly try to change behavior without your identity adjusting and shifting, it's like pulling up the weed without getting to the root. Behavior modification does not equip you with power to change. And last, who you listen to shapes your who. People around us and your spiritual enemy will repeatedly lie to us about who we are. All right, guys, I want to challenge you. I want to be that person that uplifts you. Guys, you can achieve whatever the heck you want to achieve. Okay? You can achieve whatever the heck you want to achieve. You just have to ask yourself, has anyone ever done what I'm setting out to do in a similar situation than I am? The answer almost every time that I've ever talked to anybody is yes. Okay. So if someone has done it, then it's number one, it's possible. Number two, then you have to ask yourself, well, who will I have to become to make that happen? Visualize that, write that vision down, write those traits down, write down the things in your life and your behavior and your character that you want to change, write down the traits that you admire about other people, and you start to adopt those. Write down on a piece of paper. I've got a process I call the identity shift that I taught to our Epic members here this past month or so, with an entire worksheet, an entire exercise to walk through your identity shift and your identity change. If you're curious about how to truly shift that identity, shift that who, and you're doing $250,000 or more a year in revenue, head over to carrot.com/epic. That's carrot.com/epic to get that, or go to carrot.com/2024. If this is not in 2024 when you're listening to this, the page will redirect to the right page, but carrot.com/2024. And you can get the replay of my most recent Epic call where I actually go through and show some of my identity shift process and what you think about to shift the who. All right, guys, I'm going to head in, get a workout in. That's part of my who. My who is I sweat every day because it helps give me energy and tackle the day better and be a better person, more clarity in my thought, everything. That's part of my who. I'm going to go do that, y'all. Hang out with friends that lift me up. There's 4 amazing people I work out with. They lift me up. They build up my who. They don't tear it down. And then I'm going to tackle the day. Have an amazing rest of the week, guys. We have our Carrot Camp coming up. If you want to adjust and shift your who, I talk about identity quite a bit at Carrot Camp. We just opened up those tickets as of the time that I'm talking. Go to carrotcamp.com. That's carrotcamp.com. It sells out insanely fast, y'all. 15 spots only, twice a year. carrotcamp.com. Life-changing event. No matter if you're doing 10 million a year or 100,000 a year, the floor for qualification is 100,000 a year. We're not going to teach you how to start a business, but we're going to teach you how to grow it the right way, buy back your time, do it with purpose, and really shift that identity, the person you want to become. carrotcamp.com sells out quick. Apply. We'll see you here.